On August 1, 2025, at exactly 11:43 a.m. Eastern Time, the ground shook as SpaceX's Falcon 9 lifted off from Kennedy Space Center. Sitting on top of the rocket was Dragon Endeavour, SpaceX's reusable spacecraft designed to carry astronauts into orbit. On this flight, it carried 4 astronauts heading to the International Space Station as part of NASA's Crew 11 mission. This was not just another crew rotation, every part of the launch carried its own story of achievement. But to really understand why this launch mattered so much, you have to take a look at the bigger picture, the journey that brought SpaceX to this point. SpaceX has come a long way since Elon Musk founded it back in 2002. What started as a bold dream to shake up the space industry has now completely transformed human spaceflight. Think about it. Falcon 9 rockets and Dragon spacecraft aren't just built to launch once and retire. They're designed to fly again and again, cutting costs, speeding up missions, and making space travel more reliable than ever before. And now, we've got Crew 11. This mission isn't just another launch. It's one more step toward turning human spaceflight into something routine, almost like catching a flight across the Atlantic. But it's also about looking further ahead, preparing for the day when journeys don't stop at Earth's orbit, but push outward to the Moon, to Mars, and beyond. It might have looked familiar to anyone who has watched a launch before, but Crew 11 was special. Dragon Endeavour was making its 6th trip with humans on board, showing how far reusable spacecraft have come. Below it, the Falcon 9 booster, flying for the 3rd time, touched down perfectly at Landing Zone 1. This was the last landing ever at that historic site, marking the end of an era and the start of a new one in routine, reliable spacecraft. The speed of the mission made it even more remarkable. Dragon reached the space station in just 14 hours and 43 minutes, setting a record for the fastest crewed trip to the ISS. What once took days was now done in less than 1 Earth rotation, thanks to years of precise planning and orbital calculations. This mission arrives during a milestone year, 25 continuous years of human living and working in space. Since the first long-term crews arrived at the ISS in 2000, there has never been an empty chair in orbit. Crew 11 keeps that streak alive, carrying forward a legacy of exploration and international cooperation. The crew itself reflects that spirit. An American commander and pilot are joined by a Japanese mission specialist and a Russian cosmonaut. Together, they cross political and cultural boundaries to keep the space station running, proving that cooperation can thrive even when earthbound politics are complicated. And that spirit of cooperation isn't just symbolic, it's sitting inside Dragon Endeavour itself. Let's meet the 4 astronauts who make up Crew 11. The 4 astronauts on board Dragon Endeavour have unique expertise for the mission and form a team built to keep the International Space Station running smoothly. Zena Cardman, the commander, is a scientist-astronaut making her first journey into space. Selected by NASA in 2017, she brings a background of microbiology and marine science and now leads her crew through launch, docking, and emergency scenarios. The pilot, Michael Finke, is a veteran astronaut with 3 long-duration missions behind him. His career in space spans more than 2 decades. With over 380 days logged in orbit, Crew 11 is likely the final chapter of his extraordinary career, a high point of decades spent living and working above the Earth. His experience provides a stabilizing presence for the entire crew. The mission specialists carry forward the international spirit of the ISS. Kamiya Yui, representing JAXA, is a Japanese astronaut on his 2nd flight, bringing valuable expertise from his previous stay on board the station. Alongside him is Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos, making his very first spaceflight. His presence continues the long tradition of Russian contributions to the ISS program, ensuring that cooperation remains strong in orbit. These 4 form a crew with skills that cover piloting, science, medicine, and engineering. For Cardman and Platonov, this mission marks the beginning of their careers in space. For Yui, it is a continuation, and for Finke, it represents the closing of one of NASA's most accomplished careers. Together, they keep the station alive, passing knowledge forward, maintaining experiments, and strengthening international teamwork as the ISS enters its 3rd decade. But Crew 11 didn't arrive in an empty station. High above Earth, another team was already hard at work. Expedition 73, the crew that had been keeping the ISS alive in the months leading up to this mission. Expedition 73 began on April 19, 2025, and has been keeping the International Space Station running smoothly for months before Crew 11 arrived. The mission is commanded by Takuya Anishi of JAXA, a veteran astronaut who previously flew on Expedition 48. Alongside him are NASA astronauts Anne McClain, Nicole Ayers, and Johnny Kim, as well as Russian cosmonauts Sergei Rizikov, Kirill Peskov, and Alexei Zabruski. Together, They form a multinational team managing the station's complex systems and ongoing research. In May, McLean and Ayres carried out EV-93, a 6-hour spacewalk. Their work involved installing new mounts for solar arrays and repositioning a communications antenna. It was precise and physically demanding work that lacked spectacle, but was essential to keep the station powered and its communications uninterrupted. This kind of labor often goes unnoticed by the public, but it is the backbone of safe and continuous operations in orbit. Inside the station, the crew focused on research across multiple fields, from biology to material science and human physiology. Experiments studied how fire behaves in microgravity, how metals form when freed from Earth's constraints, and how the human body adapts during extended stays in space. Every day involved a balance of scientific discovery and meticulous maintenance, ensuring both the experiments and the station itself function perfectly. When Dragon Endeavour docked on August 2nd, the ISS briefly held 11 people, one of the most crowded moments in recent years. This temporary surge in crew size underscored the station's capacity to support international collaboration and complex operations. Within days, the departure of a Soyuz spacecraft returned the population to the standard 7. For Crew 11, arriving in the middle of this mission meant joining the rhythm that was already established. Science, maintenance, and cooperation were already underway, a cycle that has defined life aboard the ISS for 25 continuous years. Their task was not only to integrate seamlessly, but to begin adding their own contributions. And as their attention turned to the spacecraft that brought them here, the story shifted from the station to the vehicle that made it all possible. The spacecraft that carried Crew 11 was Dragon Endeavour, already a veteran of human spaceflight. This was its 6th mission with astronauts on board, more flights than any other capsule in NASA's Commercial Crew program. Endeavour has become living proof that reuse is no longer experimental. Space travel can now rely on spacecraft designed to fly again and again safely. Carrying Endeavour into orbit was a Falcon 9 rocket, its booster flying for the 3rd time. The launch, originally scheduled for earlier in the day, was delayed by a brief window of unsettled weather. Clouds and high-altitude winds forced controllers to hold the countdown, a reminder that even in an era of advanced technology, spaceflight is still at the mercy of nature. Once conditions cleared, the rocket lifted off with precision, and after separation, the booster guided itself back through the atmosphere and touched down at Landing Zone 1. That landing carried extra significance. It was the final recovery ever at the historic site, closing a chapter in the Falcon 9 program and cementing SpaceX's reputation for reliability and innovation. On its journey to the station, Dragon set a new record, reaching the ISS in just 14 hours and 43 minutes. Crews transferred there once required multiple days now take less than a single orbit of the Earth. The speed of these flights has transformed how astronauts reach the station, reducing fatigue and streamlining mission planning. Inside the capsule, every cubic meter of space was packed with purpose. Life support upgrades, scientific experiments, and supplies for the crew were carefully stowed, all contributing to the ongoing research aboard the ISS. Yet the most important cargo was the astronauts themselves, seated in a spacecraft that had already proven it can carry humans safely multiple times. For NASA, the implications are clear. The era of disposable spacecraft is over. Crew 11's mission demonstrates that human space travel can now rely on vehicles built to return, be refurbished, and fly again. Each flight strengthens the foundation for future missions, from routine operations to low Earth orbit to ambitious journeys beyond, toward the Moon, and eventually Mars. As Endeavour closes in on the station, the focus shifts from the rocket and capsule to the astronauts themselves. Soon, Crew 11 will step into the orbiting laboratory, joining Expedition 73 and taking their place in the chain of human presence in space that has now lasted 25 years. The work of Crew 11 is not just about surviving in orbit. It is about learning how humans can thrive when Earth is no longer under their feet. For the next 6 months, they are turning the International Space Station into a living testbed for the future. Every hour on their schedule, from calibrating sensors to floating through the lab with a tablet in hand, contributes to one essential question: how can humans remain healthy, productive, and mentally strong while living entirely in microgravity? Spaceflight has never been without risk. Launching humans into orbit remains one of the most complex operations ever attempted. Crew 11's mission is no exception. Every component of Dragon Endeavour, from life support systems to emergency escape procedures, is designed to anticipate potential problems and keep the astronauts safe. The capsule has flown 4 times before, and each system has been rigorously inspected and refurbished. The Falcon 9 booster that carried it also had multiple successful flights, and its precise landing demonstrates the reliability engineers demand. On board, the astronauts trained for hours on every possible emergency scenario, from cabin depressurization to system failures. This careful preparation does more than reduce risk. It makes the mission meaningful. Every successful launch, docking, and safe return shows that humans can live and work in space without constant danger. It is the combination of advanced engineering, rigorous training, and attention to detail that allows Crew 11 to focus on exploration and science rather than survival. Much of their work focuses on the human body. Bones lose density without gravity, muscles weaken, and the heart functions differently when blood no longer pools in the legs. Crew 11 is running studies on countermeasures and treatments, including treadmill routines, specialized nutrition, and even experimental medications. These experiments are not just preparing astronauts for long trips to Mars, they could also help doctors on Earth treat conditions such as osteoporosis and heart disease. They are also studying physics in ways only possible in space. Fire forms perfect spheres instead of rising upward. Liquids cling to surfaces instead of pooling. Metals form in ways that do not happen on Earth. Crew 11 is observing and recording these phenomena, collecting data that could lead to stronger alloys, safer spacecraft engines, or new manufacturing techniques back on Earth. Maintaining the ISS is another critical part of their mission. New life support systems that recycle air and water more efficiently are being tested. The robotic arm is being inspected and upgraded, and modules are being prepared for incoming cargo ships from around the world. It is precise, unglamorous work. Tightening bolts, checking valves, and monitoring systems may not make headlines, but each action keeps the station safe and operating as it enters its third decade in orbit. Crew 11's mission has two goals. They are conducting experiments no laboratory on Earth can replicate, and they are keeping alive the only permanent home humans have ever built in space. Each day may seem routine on paper, but together these tasks create a blueprint for the next steps in space exploration, first returning to the Moon and then venturing farther to Mars. The International Space Station is no longer new. Its modules are aging, its systems need constant attention, and its future has been debated in government hearings more than once. Yet missions like Crew 11 show why the station still matters. It is the only place where humans live continuously off Earth and where science can be conducted without the pull of gravity. What Crew 11 is doing on board, studying how fire behaves, how metals form, and how bodies endure, is not abstract. These findings feed directly into the design of the next generation of spacecraft, space habitats, and even industries that may one day exist entirely in orbit. The ISS has become a rehearsal stage for technologies that cannot be tested anywhere else. At the same time, Crew 11 marks a new era in human space exploration. A capsule that has flown 5 times, a rocket booster reused yet again, and a record-breaking flight time all prove that space travel can be made more routine. It is not easy, and it is not cheap, but it is repeatable. Without that reliability, larger ambitions like the Artemis program or missions to Mars would remain sketches on paper. Every repair and experiment carried out by Crew 11 feeds directly into these future plans. They support the Artemis lunar program, the construction of the Gateway station around the Moon, and eventually the first journeys to Mars. The ISS may not leave low Earth orbit, but it remains the practice field where those expeditions are rehearsed and perfected. Why this matters is simple. Crew 11 is not just keeping a station alive, they are keeping the path open. Every experiment, every docking, every departure shows that human life can adapt beyond Earth. As long as crews continue to orbit, the question of going further stops being whether it is possible and becomes a matter of when it will happen. From the outside, Crew 11 might look like just another flight, another handover, another chapter in a long story. But step closer and you see something larger. This is a crew riding a reused spacecraft to a station that has been lived in continuously for 25 years, preparing humanity for the leap beyond. Every generation of spacecraft has carried us a little further. Apollo reached the Moon, the shuttle built the ISS, Dragon has made a reuse routine, Artemis aims to return us to lunar soil, and Gateway promises a foothold in deep space. Crew 11 connects those dots. It may seem ordinary on paper, but in reality, it is a rehearsal for what comes next. As long as crews like Crew 11 keep circling above our planet, humanity has not stalled. We are still learning, still building, still pushing outward. Crew 11 matters not because of where it is, but because of where it points. If you enjoyed this look at Crew 11 and the future of human spaceflight, make sure to like this video and leave a comment sharing what excites you most about living in space. Subscribe for more stories that take you behind the scenes of humanity's journey beyond Earth.